Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Talkie Taka podcast. I'm Swagat and I'm joined today by RK and Radha, who are here to discuss the inevitability and the eventuality of Man City winning a treble. Finally, it seems to be loading, and it seems that Southampton are the only thing that stood between Man City and a quadruple. So we shall see how that pans out. But to begin with, yeah, Ark is looking a bit lost because Southampton beat City in the League Cup, which is why it's not a quadruple and only a treble that's
He's
loaded.
looking lost. He's looking lost because you've just taken away the one trophy that he had this season. You just like wiped it away. He's also having a say in their FA Cup, and you're just completely sweeping all of that under the carpet. Yeah, he's going to come back at you with some Chelsea jibes today.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, for
I was
sure.
wondering how come Southampton are they playing the season opener next season, Community Shield? I
Yeah,
wasn't able to
from the
understand that at all.
championship. Anyway, so boys, I think yesterday's Man City game was probably one of the highlights of our talking points for this episode. But what are your talking points? RK, I'll give you first go since Radha is busy munching away.
Yeah, in a goal shy team, we finally welcome back a new goal scorer or a goal scorer who was injured for a long while. So Garnacho's goal in the injury time, finally someone showing really calm finishing skills. So that's my talking moment of the week.
Yeah. And new contract, everything's set, baby on the way. He looks like his life is set. Hopefully he keeps a calm head on his shoulders and doesn't go the Greenwood way, if we're allowed to mention that name on football podcasts, as the other more established names seem to be avoiding that name altogether. Anyway, Radha, what's it going to be for you? There are some sentimentalities attached to the Liverpool game coming up, I see.
Look, just before we go there, like yeah, that's what makes us the great podcast that we are, right? Swag. We're willing to go where the others aren't, stick our nose in where the others aren't. Yeah, for all we care, Greenwood is guilty, right? So we're willing to take the hard calls here on Talkie Taka. Yeah, but coming to my talkie moment of the week, this is part one. I think I can prelude it by saying part two is coming up next week. Pretty much the same call out. It's Bobby Firmino leaving Liverpool. So part one today because after the Leicester game, actually not just after the Leicester game, right from around minute 65 and all through minute 80s to the end of the game, it was just the Firmino song being sung at the away end. We were thrashing Leicester, so there was no real home fan support or sound or anything of that sort. It was just the Firmino song non-stop for like 10, 12, 13 minutes. And after the game, it continued as well. And all the Liverpool players got into the song as well and started doing a dance and were surrounding Firmino. I think you really got the feeling that the time is finally here. Absolute hero to me, and pretty much I'm sure every Liverpool fan that I've met. We're going to miss him terribly. So, part one is my talkie moment for the week, and next week will be the last game at Anfield, and I'm sure it'll be a very difficult watch, and that will be my part two. So, next week's talkie moment is going to be Bobby Firmino's actual farewell at Anfield.
And not to forget, there are three others who've already been confirmed that they will be leaving as well, and of course not as I don't know, as deserving of the applause, but they've played important bits in the success of Liverpool as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far. I think James Milner deserves everything. He's been our vice captain for the last few years as well, and he's absolutely from the moment Klopp walked in to now, he's been essential in so many ways. So yeah, he deserves a lot, but Bobby just holds a different place in everybody's hearts. It's like, and again, of course, Oxlade, Chamberlain, and Naby Keita maybe in a tier below these two, but Bobby stands in a league of his own. Like every Liverpool fan loves him. Every Liverpool fan will love him wherever he goes. Yeah, it'll be a tough one to watch him play his last. Well, he may hopefully he plays, but yeah, to watch him leave at Anfield.
Yeah, I think Liverpool need to somehow get a formation where they can have all the new and old attacking members on the pitch at the same time. Get Salah, Nunez, Firmino, Diaz, Jota, Gakpo, everyone on, even if it's for just 1 minute, basically just passing the baton if possible. But anyway, moving on. My talkie point, I think we've discussed a lot of predictions on this podcast all through the season. Sometimes this team is going down, sometimes that team is going down. But Bournemouth are mathematically safe. And I will take all the all the credit for that. Gary O'Neill didn't do anything. But the most interesting bit was, as soon as that became a certainty, Bournemouth came out on Twitter with this small clip of around a minute and a half worth of video, which basically had every pundit saying Bournemouth are going down at the start of the season and just clipping them all together. And at the end, it was like, we're not going down. The owner saying we're not going to go down this season. So, well, kudos to them. And if Nottingham Forest survive, it'll be all three promoted teams surviving. I don't know when was the last time that happened. So that'll be an interesting one to watch out for. But let's get into the Champions League semis. Inter beat Milan and they're through to the final again after, I think, 12, 13 years. I think the last one was when Jose won it with them in the treble season. And on the other side, you got Man City coming through as a juggernaut, absolutely decimating Real Madrid like no one else has done. 1.54 xg at halftime and Madrid having an xg of 0.01. It's like, yeah, you don't even imagine something like this happening. It's like the Undertaker's streak being broken at WrestleMania or something. It had that sort of a feel in the first half at least. So what are your thoughts on this? Is this done now? Finally, Pep will have his Champions League trophy with Man City.
Watching the game in the first half with Real Madrid completely on the ropes, it wasn't so much of surprise because that's how like some of their games have been in the last couple of years, and like Courtois was making like Courtois made a couple of great saves, and you always felt like, okay, this is maybe 25-30 minutes that Real Madrid will always kind of see out, and then they would start their comeback. But that never materialized like throughout the first half. Like for me personally, the first 23 minutes till the first goal, it was other level of football. It was really heavenly. I mean, really special to watch. I think City were almost perfect, and they should have scored three or four. I think by the time they scored their first goal, of all people, Haaland missing real sitters. Probably his second finish was actually a good finish, where Courtois pulled out a magnificent save. The first one I think was a free header. So I think like City should have been out of sight by the time that they scored their first goal. And the main people in there, like the people who shone are the people who have led the resurrection. Other than KDB and Haaland, who we always talk about, it's you look at Ilkay Gundogan, Grealish, and John Stones. I think these three have like kind of led the tactical rethink of Guardiola of how he wants more control. But I think the best player on the pitch by far was Bernardo Silva. He is the go-to man for Guardiola. He takes up any role which Guardiola wants him to play. And on this day, I think he outshone all other even City players playing at a very high standard in that half. Magnificent half from City.
Yeah, I was really shocked. I didn't watch the game live. I went to bed thinking this is most probably going to be one of those Real Madrid smash and grab late victories or something of that sort. But I did have an inkling that okay, obviously City might win, but I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined a thrashing like the way it was. It was definitely the one of the most shocking score lines that I've ever woken up to. Watching the game back, like yeah, it could have been six, right? It could have been 6 or 7 nil. Courtois probably the save of a long time. The second Haaland chance, it was just incredible. And Bernardo Silva, I mean, you go back a few years, maybe a couple of years ago, and there was a real chat that Bernardo Silva is leaving. Like there was a strong expectation that he's going to be joining. I think it was PSG at the time. I don't remember
Barcelona
exactly.
last season as well.
Yeah, Barcelona. And out of nowhere, these rumors come, these rumors go. He ends up staying, and he ends up being as important as he always has been. It's pretty. And if you go back to all the other things that I've hated about City, about how they just been getting rid of players who are important, right? Like Zinchenko and Jesus and Sterling, without really having the right kinds of replacements. And if you think that somehow they've managed to hold on to Bernardo and still completely keep him integrated in the team so that he's like as important on day one as he was on day zero. It's pretty incredible. And his second goal is probably one of my favorites. It's just shows the temperament and the class of the guy. Like it pops out, and he's just cleanly a small cushioned header into the back of the net in a tense situation. It was great. Yeah, I think this is definitely a changing of the guard moment. Not to say that Real won't be back, but I think City are finally there, and that's it. As they've reached the mountaintop, the Everest, as one would say. I think a treble is incoming. Um, United are, I think, a better chance to stop that from happening than Inter Milan.
And the City press, the moment that I felt something is really off today was a couple of times, where Modric was robbed of the ball in normal position when he was kind of taking control of the ball, and he immediately got robbed of it. And then there was another, like a third moment where Modric, in his usual calm, calculated way, took control of the ball. He turned around, looked for two or three people, but the City pressing was so good, man marking was so good, he just couldn't find a pass, and like within 2 seconds, the ball was out of his feet, and he was staring at people around him, saying, what's wrong today with you guys. So looking at that sense of kind of discomfiture on Modric's face, I have barely seen Modric lose a ball in years, and he lost it thrice in maybe 10-15 minutes, and that was the moment where it felt like, okay, Madrid are still capable of coming back. Obviously, as long as it's 1-0, 2-0, they can come back, but something is really really off. Is what I felt. And yeah, I mean, John Stones, he was kind of cropping up. If you see the first goal, he crops up right in the opposition box. He controls the ball, turns around, and then recycles it. So City, whatever tactics that they have been working on with respect to pushing up one of the centre backs, forming a box in midfield, it looked like it kind of reached the zenith yesterday. And like whatever kind of fiddling that Guardiola has done the whole season since March, it's looked like maybe one of his best well-oiled machines. And yeah,
Then
I mean,
also
on the spot, we have been calling out saying that he's doing too much of fiddling, he's not getting it right, City looking ordinary, all of which was true, but that guy is an alchemist.
Also, shout out to Walker, who had the better of Vinicius yesterday. Completely locked him up, didn't give him much of an opportunity. I remember at the end of the first leg, they shared a good hug together, and they were like, "Yeah, it was a good fight against you, and we'll see you in the second leg." But RK, I also had a question about Rudiger. You remember we talked about Rudiger in the first leg and how he had Haaland quite under control, as much under control you can have Haaland, but he was missing from the starting lineup, and that made an impact, I would say, not just in
Yeah.
terms of his capability, but also in terms of how the overall structure felt, and that is probably something that helped that lack of control that you were talking about for Modric and co.
Yeah, I was really shocked to see Rudiger not in the starting 11 when he was fit. For me, after watching the first leg, he would have been the first name I put on the team sheet, because over the whole season, you can't think of any other name, who's done so well against Haaland over 90 minutes in the way that he did. So, I mean, to not see Rudiger, I think that was a big blunder from Ancelotti, which I didn't see coming at all. And it's not that Militao is a bad defender, but you could immediately see that any new guy comes in suddenly in a second leg, you can't. I mean, and Rudiger had a really high standard that he set for someone to control Haaland, and like there were even moments, couple of moments in the first 10-15 minutes where the like really good cross came into the box. Militao won the header in front of Haaland, but it wasn't a good header. It was just kind of looping up. waiting to be contested by other people, and then the keeper came and claimed it. So you could see that Militao is not as confident as Rudiger. I don't think anybody can be as confident as Rudiger in general, but that was a big miss from Madrid. And I don't know whether what was their actual strategy coming into the match. I think they have had so many comebacks over the years that like probably they've started thinking that we can be like like we can get outboxed and we'll fight back. I think that level of kind of a bit of complacency or overconfidence in how they should approach the game, I think that was their undoing, because yesterday there was no way back for them at all.
Yeah, and Radha mentioned about how Pep is ruthless in terms of letting people go, the players that he doesn't need, Sterling and the likes. And it's also the players he gets in. So, for example, if listeners would go back and listen to probably the first or the second episode of the season, Ashwin, I think, mentioned about Akanji being a transfer target for Leicester, and he came in with his Bundesliga hat on. He was like, "Yeah, Leicester might do a good thing getting Akanji," and Akanji is now an integral element of the Man City defensive lineup, and he wasn't even in the starting lineup for Dortmund at the end of last season. So he's he he's got the correct idea for which player he wants, and if that means culling the likes of a Zinchenko or a Sterling, then he's willing to do that.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe maybe
like you can even look at how Ake has done. Ake wasn't really that involved, and whenever he's played this season, he's kind of fitted, hand in glove. And then of course, Jack Grealish. I think on this spot also, we have trolled him quite a bit in good humor and in bad humor. Like there was this funny incident. Uh, where he trolled like the Newcastle winger. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name, but you
Almiron,
know
Almiron.
Almiron. So, but he's come back and proven all of us wrong. Huge kudos to Grealish as well.
Yeah, he's a really annoying guy. I mean, I don't like appreciating him. Even when he was at Villa and Villa were the underdog team, and typically you like the underdog teams. I never really liked Grealish much. He was, I would actually seem like a very mild. My opinion may seem very mild when it comes to Grealish when compared to Ub, who just he's Ub is like Grealish is like his boomer nightmare. Like everything that he hates in football is brought alive by Jack Grealish with his like annoying falling and crying and he I think Ab has a problem with his shin pads as well. Anything and everything that could be a problem Ab hates. But yeah, I don't like him much as a player. But there's no doubt about it. He's really fit into the system this year. I think when they got rid of Jesus and Sterling, I wondered whether they're putting too much of their belief on Jack Grealish and Mahrez to kind of take you through an entire season and be the first choice without too much depth. I think Grealish has definitely stepped up. Phil Foden has had his ups and downs. I thought he would be the constant all through the season, and that these two would kind of fit in around him. But Phil Foden has ended up being the up and down guy, and Grealish has been the constant. So yeah, I think kudos to him and Pep. I think I have not liked Pep in the past as well. I think all the things you mentioned about the tinkering, I love to point that out because that shows such a great flaw in this guy when there are very few flaws. But yeah, I think he's finally, it's about time, I have to say, but he's finally, I think, figured out that his team, plan A, is pretty much good enough to beat any other team in the world. You don't have to try different things, you don't have to try anything stupid. So yeah, I mean, kudos to City. I fully 1000% expect them to win the Champions League. I'm less certain about their FA Cup, so maybe the treble won't happen. But Champions League, all their guns are going to be blazing in that direction. I think it's definitely going to them this season.
Our viewers can rest assured that whatever compliments that I think all of us have given City, it's with a big stone on our heart. so so that goes without saying. But I thought Ab reserved this kind of temperament for Florent Maluda. So Grealish is the new Maluda.
maybe so. We will have to ask Ab to return from his sojourns of his work life and make some time for the pod to finally spill the beans. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
RK
we should
side.
definitely have a section, in the season ender, which is the player he or list of all the players he hates. I think that will be a long list.
Yeah, it'll be Ub's pet peeves would be one big section. But I see that RK sidestepped the question of the FA Cup final very nicely and neatly, not talking anything about it. I think, look, the league is done. Just put a pin in it. The Champions League, I think we are all united in saying that it's going City's way. It's extremely unlikely that Inter will have something to do about it unless Lukaku can finally score all the goals he missed for Belgium in the World Cup game. But the FA Cup final that falls in between, is there a chance that Pep slightly undercooks the FA Cup final because the Champions League final is a week later?
Look, I was talking to a colleague today and about the game yesterday. He's also a United fan, and he made one statement which I'll repeat here. He told me that watching Real Madrid against City it looked like United playing City. So you know what's going to happen on June 3rd. If
No, I
City
don't
come up
think.
like that, no chance.
No, I don't think they're going to undercook. There's no. They have an entire week to prepare. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll come out with their starting team. What I do think can happen is that mentally, I don't see them being as glued in as they were in the Real Madrid second leg, or they will be against Inter Milan. At the end of the day, the FA Cup is, it's like a been there, done that thing for them. Are they good? And I mean, I may just be absolutely off the mark here because they are a champion team, and champion teams don't just turn up on like the odd occasion. They turn up every time it's important. So they'll probably come out and dominate the game, and they're good enough to beat United handsomely. But I do feel that if there is a chance, there is more of a chance in the United game for them to slip up, and definitely no chance of them slipping up against Inter Milan.
Yeah, I agree. Like the league is pretty much we don't even need to talk about it. Between Inter and United, it's United has a better chance than Inter, especially because there would be at least they wouldn't have the clear or even relative home advantage. I'm sure that the United fans will be louder at Wembley. I'm reading that City are failing to fill up their allocation for that like for the final. So hopefully the crowd will help, and it's a big moment. Uh, Everyone knows that it's the onus is on United to stop City from winning a treble. So I am expecting at least some intensity from United, but definitely not expecting United to win that match.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. I think this will be a good, tasty 1 or 2 weeks of football with Man City at the focus of it. Right. Coming back to the league, as we said, the league title challenge is pretty much done. I think Arsenal need to win all the games, and even then, City just need one win from their final 2 or 3 games to get the title. So not much point in discussing that. But I think what's left is the the race for the Champions League spots and the relegation battle. But I think Brighton are affecting both ends of the table. They beat Arsenal, they beat Man United, then they went ahead and lost to Everton, basically helping Everton potentially staying up and troubling Man United and bringing Liverpool back into the race for the top four. And I did say last episode that RK is jinxing and there's no hope for Liverpool to have a shot at the top four race. But I think with the way the Brighton United game panned out, there is still scope for a United or a Newcastle slip. It doesn't need to be at the expense of Man United; it can be at the expense of Newcastle United as well. But Liverpool are in an amazing run of form, so that might be something that we need to keep an eye out for. And listener, as we record, it's just a few hours before it's Newcastle versus Brighton, so that game might confuse things even further. It's virtually the race for the Champions League spots is basically what the IPL season table looks like right now. It's like every team can go through and none of them can go through at the same time. But I would still say that United are probably better positioned with the fixtures that they have and the fact that you just need One win or two wins? Just two wins and you'll be done, right?
Two
Yeah, United
wins,
need two wins. Same for
and
Newcastle as well.
yeah, both Newcastle and United, exactly. So it's, and the good thing for United is Newcastle is in the same boat as well. So there's always one fallback. I think looking at the fixtures as well, I think if the minuscule chance, now, first of all, this never should have been a chance. I think 9 points and 10 points behind with, what was it, 6 games, 7 games to go. It should be a done deal. Both Newcastle and United have slipped up quite significantly. Um, but now, current, giving the situation we are in right now, I think United dropped points in their two toughest fixtures, which were away fixtures against Brighton and West Ham. If you were going to expect them to drop points, you would have expected them in those two games. I think from now on, it should be pretty straightforward for United. Newcastle, on the other hand, play Brighton later tonight, and then they play Leicester, who is of course almost dead and buried. You can never tell what happens in such games, although they were really woeful against Liverpool. And in the last game of the season, which probably is the most likely game they'll win, is against Chelsea. So there is some scope for them to drop points. Brighton and Chelsea and any other season, you would think is like two games where they can potentially drop points. But Chelsea this time have not really inspired that confidence that they can take something off Newcastle, and Leicester are probably just not good enough. So even if Brighton do beat Newcastle, I think it'll still be enough to finish in the top four.
I think Chelsea's presence in both Newcastle and Man United's fixtures list basically gives them more comfort and confidence that they have this fixture to fall back upon, both of them, which is why Liverpool are probably still the underdogs here.
Yeah, Chelsea, I think, are more or less, it's been a while now and they're just waiting for it to end. Every match is, another exercise in some kind of torture. But yeah, I mean, Chelsea is probably, if consider yourself a good team this season, you should be able to beat them, especially at home. So United are playing Chelsea at home, but yeah, it's like the kind of, Newcastle have been blowing hot and cold. You never know in the last few weeks which game how they are going to turn up, and United have been a problem, have a have a big problem in away games, but yeah, I do expect that they will perform well against Bournemouth because Bournemouth barely have anything to play for. So I would be very surprised if either Newcastle or United don't end up in top four. But when the race gets a bit heated and you can't afford to either drop too many more points, you never know how players react. So I mean, and of course, Liverpool, we have to also acknowledge the fact that they have won 7 consecutive games. So it's not like Liverpool have given any margin for error for other teams to drop points. So that's also the reason why it's become so close. And of course, talking of Liverpool, another guy that I like trolling just to I think pull Radha's leg, Alexander Arnold. What a goal he scored!
Dude, I don't remember the stat exactly right now, but there's a stat. I think it says it's something after April 9th or something like that. Let me just quickly pull it up. But yeah, Alexander Arnold has been uh, absolutely incredible since this tactical change, this positional change. And the stat goes something like assists, key passes, recoveries, three more metrics. He's ranking number one in the league since April 9th when we made that tactical switch. He's clearly back to enjoying himself, moving to that role in midfield, and he's really. I mean, I used to think that okay, he's a lot of his things are done in like a large amount of space. Like he hits long balls, 60-yard balls. He can play beautiful crosses in from the wings. And I thought he needed that space to be at his best. But in the last few games, playing in the position that he's had plenty of opportunities to play like chip through balls, the likes of which Javi and Iniesta used to do for Barcelona in very small spaces, and he's able to do that as well. So he has all the other stuff, the long range passing and the one touch passing and all of that, but some of the cuter passes and the quick thinking passes, I think he's pulled that out of the bag as well. He looks an absolute natural while playing in that position, but obviously there's the complication that he's not actually playing in that position. It's a very weird system that we're playing right now. But yeah, I mean, he's been amazing now for the last 4 or 5 games and probably been our best player. And yeah, I mean, more like I hope this gives him some confidence going into the next season, and a little bit of a predicament on our what system we play next season as well. So yeah, good times I think for Trent, and things are looking good for Liverpool as well. It's not a coincidence perhaps that the first time we have all our top players back, all the attacking players back, and at the same time having at least a week between each game, everybody's having time to train their teams. That Liverpool are looking a lot better now. I think whenever Klopp has had the opportunity to train with the team for a long time, things look good. So it's good to see that. It gives hope that it's not one of those, the seventh season syndrome things where it spirals into an uncontrollable abyss. There's clear improvement that we've seen in the last, say, 7, 8 games. A few of them we won, particularly the first two, I think we won despite being poor. But the next few definitely we've picked up, and the last 4 or 5 games we've been very strong.
Do you see a
I think
situation next season where you play that backup right back? What's his name? Calvin Ramsey in at right back and move Trent up permanently into midfield. Do you think that's a possibility? Haven't seen much of him though.
See, I think if that is going to be the case, then it's not going to be Calvin Ramsey. It'll have to be a new starting right back. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to go back to what it was, and the midfield that they do sign will have responsibilities to shield Alexander Arnold, like Henderson and Fabinho have had for a long period of time. I think the mobility loss of Fabinho and Henderson have caused the current situation that we're in, as much as Arnold's uh, bad form as well. So hopefully, with some new players and some more mobility and better legs, we should be in a better position as well. But if we do decide to make the switch permanently, I now don't have any doubt that he can do it. I think we'll need a new right back because Calvin Ramsey one was a he's meant to be a number two. I think he's meant to be somebody's understudy. He's young, and we haven't seen enough of him in a Liverpool shirt at all for him to be a starter.
Brighton, talking of Brighton, they are also having and a lot of hinges on today's match, but they also have an outside chance of, somehow being able to finish up there. But I mean, even more of an outside chance than Liverpool. But I think, what a performance against Arsenal. You don't, like you knew that the title race is over, but Arsenal were still looking to, get all the points that they could. And I think the first half was a bit of an even game. I remember Arsenal, being slightly ahead of the game at that point, even though the score was 0-0. But what a second half from Brighton, especially after getting the lead, the way that, Brighton controlled the ball, and, control the tempo of the game. You don't see that even from more established players and established sides like, Manchester United, for example. But, that kind of know-how and that kind of coaching that, like Deserby has done to that team with so many youngsters, to have that much of nous and, maturity of how to control a game was amazing to see. And I mean, special mention of two players, Caicedo and McAllister. I have been seeing a lot of, sentimental posts from Caicedo after the game. I think, where he injured Martinelli. So he's been very apologetic about it. So I don't have much doubt in my mind that Caicedo is going to end up at Arsenal like this summer. But McAllister at the start of the season, I used to think that he's a kind of an underrated jewel. Like he doesn't really, probably, he's a very hardworking kind of player, is what I thought. But whatever I've seen of him, since the World Cup and after that, he seems like the real deal, that you would want from a kind of hybrid 8-10 kind of a player. There's a lot of competition for him from United and Liverpool. Let's see where he ends up.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for all his suitors, his World Cup win just added a few more millions to his transfer value. So we shall see. I think listeners will keep an eye out for all of that, and you will hear one or two special pods during the summer window as well, where we discuss some of these transfer outgoings and incomings.
Just a question to you guys. I think we were discussing it on on the group as well, with respect to how Arsenal have kind of fallen away. And what like from a next season perspective for Arsenal, finishing on 85, 87 points, leading by miles at the halfway stage. Do they? Is it something that Arteta needs to build? Is it something that Arteta is lacking in to kind of finish the season strongly, or is it about getting another 2 3 players with a with a championship mentality in the squad?
It's probably a mixture of both of them, which is a very MBA style answer. But you do realize that they you can call it bottling, but they did suffer a loss of confidence going into the run. They had that lead. If they had not dropped those points against Southampton and West Ham, etc., this would still be a different chat that we would be having right now. So it's not just the presence and aura of Man City; it was also a lack of performance at Arsenal's end. So definitely they do need some more strengthening in terms of capability, but also mentality. In terms of Arteta's capability and his management, I'm not sure because I think he is his team is beyond where we expected them to be at the end of the season. This is a slightly more unexpected twist and performance for Arsenal this season. So I'm interested to see if they can sustain this next season anyway, even with reinforcements. If the other challenges like Newcastle, like Man United potentially with under new ownership, etc., will Arsenal still be capable of bringing out the big guns, or will it be reverting back to type? Considering also that they didn't have Europe this season, or not Champions League this season, and that will also put some more pressure on them next season. So I'm not so sure about what Arteta needs to do further, but that's only because I'm not sure what he needs to do. Maybe Radha has some better insight on that than me.
I think more of the same. I don't think anything suggests that this has been a fluke or a freak of a season. They have got consistently better at what they do. Perhaps this season has been a surprise in that their jump from a top four club or a top five club to a top two club happened quite suddenly. But yeah, they were blessed by the fact that Chelsea and Liverpool had huge unexpected drop offs as well. And of course, City also had a drop off from their usual levels. So they were helped by that. But from a progression point of view, I think it's just more of the same. With maybe they maybe if City is like all guns blazing next season, they won't be in a title race, Arsenal. But the way that they played this season, there's nothing to suggest that they can't do it again. They will only get better because they have severe weak links in that squad. The likes of Xhaka, the likes of Nketiah, who they had to bring off the bench this season at times. Even though Reece Nelson had this amazing moment for them, he's not really the kind of player that you want to rely on off the bench. So I think they will plug all these gaps. And luckily for them, I think the gaps are all squad gaps, not really starting 11 gaps. So I think it's only going to get better for them. But yeah, maybe actually getting better won't be enough to be in a title race next season.
Yeah, the only thing I am concerned about is this kind of late season wobble happened last year when they were fighting for top four, and then it's happening again this year. So I don't know if it's a managerial thing because he's brought in good characters, but it's still not really changed when it comes to the crunch. First 19 games they had 50 points. Next 17 games they have had only the what around 30 points. So it's a massive drop off in form which Arsenal have had in the second half. So will they be
And
able to build all the people and again challenge next year? As something seems to be wrong in that mentality, or maybe even from the coach.
see, there is definitely it's valid to ask that question, and I'm sure a lot of people are on the same side as you are on that, RK. But the only point for all of us to also remember is that if we were asked when we went into the World Cup, if we were asked what are the two major contributors to why Arsenal are where they are, I think 9 out of 10 people would have said Gabriel Jesus and Saliba, and they lost both of them for significant periods of time in the second half of the season as well. So it's like losing a Salah and a Van Dijk, right? So for them, it was a pretty freak occurrence where two of their best players have gone out at a similar point of time. Yes, there will be some amount of mental I think questions should be raised. It's happened twice now in 2 seasons, so it should be raised. But I'd give them some amount of benefit of doubt because of their personnel. And even if Jesus went off, chalo theek hai, you lose Salah. At least you should have somebody like a Jota to bring on. Nketiah is not the kind of guy that you should be bringing on in a situation like that. I expect that to change next year. So if you lose somebody, I expect the quality that they bring on to be a lot better than it was this season. So at that part, it should get better. I think Martinelli should have competition for places. Nketiah, I think, should become third or fourth choice for his position. So that way they should get better. And even like replacing Xhaka with somebody with real quality over there, I think that could be a game changer for them as well. So I expect them to get better. But yeah, I'm not ruling out completely that they do have a mental thing to work on.
Yeah, there's potentially a lot of incoming and outgoing chatter for Arsenal in the summer window. But talking of incoming and outgoing, Burnley and Sheffield United have been promoted to the Premier League, and one of Luton or Coventry will join them. They're facing each other in the playoff final. Interestingly, Luton are the only team to have benefited from the parachute payments and not have played in the Premier League, because they were part of the first division in the last season before it became the Premier League and got relegated and have never been back. So that's both of these teams have their stories about flirting with administration, being in the conference or Vanarama League where Wrexham was popularly this season, etc., etc. And both of them are here. Both of them have their stories, and only one of them will make it to the promised land next season. So we'll talk about them further in detail once this playoff final is done. But just rounding off on Europe, Barcelona are champions. They won at Espanyol and then quite literally had to run off the pitch because the Espanyol ultras invaded the pitch. They were doing some weird form of ringa ringa roses and had to run off.
Really,
Napoli are
serves
also
them right. What you like? You don't have a right to do that on your own ground. It was that comical and that lame. Whatever they were doing there.
and they were doing that at their city rivals. They're basically a fierce rival in every sense of the word. But anyway, I think what are our takes on Xavi and his team? They pulled all those levers, but it's finally come to fruition for them, right? It's worked for them. Whatever you say about the way they got there.
Yeah, I think we were discussing Barca earlier in the season as well when the Europa ties with United were going on, and that was the time when United were also on a good run, and Barca, like, it seemed quite obvious that although they had that really poor run in the Champions League, but when you watch them play, you can see that their fundamentals are better, and have to give it to Javi that I don't know how far he's going to go, or how serious a manager he is, but definitely he's brought a really good structure. He's done really well with Barca, made them into a really good pressing unit, made them, I mean, somewhat tactically flexible as well. So uh, even though Spanish league is only maybe a two or three team league, but probably it's better than the Premier League, which is a one team league right now. So it's not that easy to win a league against Atletico and Real Madrid. So I mean, kudos to Xavi. Let's see. But to be honest, I haven't read too much about Barca and what are their financial troubles going forward. So I'm sure there's more saga in the offing when it comes to the summer window.
For sure, for sure. And I think also Matteo Alemani, who's the finance guy who masterminded all this financial revival. I think he was in talks with Aston Villa about taking over there. So you're comparing the pull of a Barcelona with an Aston Villa. So also tells you how far ahead the Premier League is in terms of at least money, if not prestige and all. But we shall see how that pans out. But listeners would have not listeners people who follow us on TikTok and Instagram would have seen pictures and videos being posted of some skies in Italy where after Napoli had won the Scudetto, the sky was basically lit up like from end to end. It's been a long wait for Napoli, but they celebrated like in proper good style, and I think deserved champions this season. Will be fun to
It's
see
it's
what
the year
happens
of
to
the
them.
light blue, is it? You have Napoli, you have City
Every
doing the
e-
treble.
every year is the year of the light blue in England, at least, man. Bloody
Yeah, we are the Farmers League.
And of course, as Andy Mitten pointed out, Coventry City.
It'll only just get confirmed if Coventry City basically make it through to the Premier League. Then it's definitely sky blue or light blue everywhere. Definitely not dark blue, unfortunately.
yeah, and just going to the Napoli scenes, it was just out of this world. Everybody and anybody who there were actually photos from people flying over Napoli at that point of time as well. It is quite incredible to see. Italy is such a unique place, man, for football. It's so incredibly passionate, and it has good and bad also. Of course, you have all the bad stuff where there's so much racist and neo-Nazi level stuff that happens there once in a while. But the good stuff is just incredible. I don't know whether you guys caught it, but the Milan team standing at the edge of their pitch
Getting
and
a
getting
bollocking.
literally yelled at, a proper yelling from their ultras, and they're all standing in attention like they're in school, and just sitting there and taking it. That's so unique. You don't see that anywhere else in the world. Italy is such a like a crazy place, but I here's hoping it's crazy enough to beat City in the Champions League final.
And it's been a great year for like Diego Maradona from up in the heavens. First, Argentina, like for the first time after he passed away, and like they have won the World Cup in 36 years, and then Napoli won the like the title for the first time since like the last time they won was with Maradona. So I mean, both the teams very close to Maradona have done well this year.
Yeah, and just to call out, Radha said Italy is this fun place. I think last 4 years, four different teams have won the Scudetto there. So yeah, that's definitely more fun as compared to the Premier League, where was it Martin Tyler who was over this weekend or something? He was like, "Oh, this is such an exciting league, etc., etc. This is not a one-horse race." And Man City are about to win their fifth title in 6 years or something like that. So, not exactly sure. I do understand that it is exciting, probably below the first position, but that basically makes us probably in line with Bundesliga, maybe.
But also the probably the only times that City haven't faced the challenges when United finished second. So 17-18 there was no title race when United finished second. 2020-21 there was no title race when United finished a long way behind. Other than that, Liverpool probably stretched them twice, and Arsenal, to be fair, were far ahead at one point. So it's not been that easy for City as well. But of course, the team who wins, that's the name you remember. So yeah, it's been pretty one-sided when you look at the winners.
Yeah, I think the only team that City need to fear is probably the wrath of UEFA and FIFA with all those 115 charges, and let's see what that brings. I don't know how long it'll take them to charge City with anything, considering it took them, I don't know, 6 years or 5 years to charge Ivan Tony with his betting offenses and give him 8 months ban, which is, I would say, slightly ridiculous, if not very ridiculous, considering virtually half the teams in England have a betting sponsor, and leagues are sponsored by betting companies. Leading podcasts are sponsored by betting companies, etc., etc. And then you say, "Oh, but you are not supposed to bet. You are the only guy who's not supposed to bet." But we shall see how that pans out. Apparently, he's not being allowed to go outside England as well to serve his ban. So that's potentially something to keep an eye out on. But yeah, I didn't mention the Bundesliga. That's still open with 2 games to go. Only 1 point in it between Munich and Dortmund. Potentially an upset loading. I don't know. Here's hoping. Ashwin will love it. So shall we. But I don't think it's happening.
Well, they are playing Leipzig, but who's in third place. But I mean, on their day, no game is a tough game for Bayern Munich. I think Dortmund a couple of maybe a month ago were leading and probably had the chance to see this through. But as I don't know who it was, but somebody called Dortmund the Spurs of Bundesliga. They seem to have choked it. Yeah, so I called them Spurs, and I can never forgive an insult like that. But yeah, they did choke again, and looks like Bayern should get over the line here.
Yeah. Right, listener. So the only thing that's left for us to do is look forward to the games ahead in the Premier League. And we did mention that Newcastle are playing Brighton tonight. That is definitely one with implications at the top end of the table. I think the next time we meet, we would have probably had some more interesting games having been done. Potentially another one with to keep an eye out would have been Man United versus Chelsea, but I think with the current state both clubs are in, this should be, and considering it's at home, so RK doesn't have the advantage of saying, "Oh, but it's away from home, so we won't get points." This should be a straightforward win for Man United.
I think the top four race should be done by then, right? Like two games is what both teams need.
Yeah.
So top four race, unless oh well, no. I mean, if they screw up, then it'll still be open. But most probably the top four race should be done. And relegation, how is that looking? Do
I think so. If you're talking about Newcastle ceiling top four, then Leicester would potentially have gone down as well because Leicester are facing Newcastle over the weekend. So, and the way Leicester were against Liverpool on Monday, it doesn't look like they've got anything left to give. I think they're just crawling to the end of the season and preparing for their next stint in the championship.
and
which means
somehow
it's between
Everton.
Allardyce and Daesh as to who's going to
I
survive.
I think Daesh will survive, and I think that's primarily because of this Brighton game that they've somehow suddenly won, and Brighton turned into Leeds or Leicester for a day and lost 5-1 at home. It was just weird, but I think that's just given them that enough of a boost that I think it's going to be Leeds and Leicester who go down.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe it. They've been the only consistent name in the relegation scrap for the entire season, and it looks like they might they might escape after all. Everton, I mean, and yeah, Leeds, probably Leeds and Leicester. I think, yeah, I think it's going to be down for them. Who are Leeds playing for the last two games? Oh, Leeds are playing West Ham away and Tottenham at home. Tough games. I think Leeds are done for. Leicester, man, I really hope they pull something out, but I don't see that happening either.
Who do you
But
see, Matt?
with West Ham being in a good position in the Conference League and with the Premier League season kind of dusted, it it might not be as tough as it looks. But yeah, I mean Everton having the better fixtures for sure.
Yeah, Everton are facing teams who have nothing to do. They're already on the beach, Wolves and Bournemouth, so they can just chillax and have fun. But who do you see if Leicester go down? Who do you see Madison going to? Madison, Tielemans, the like of them. I don't see them playing in the championship for sure.
No, no, no chance. There's no chance that Madison and Tielemans stay at Leicester if they go down. I mean, now who is a? I mean, it's a good question. There was some chat on the group the other day about signing a replacement, or sorry, a backup for Bruno Fernandez. I mean, it's a good shout, I would say. I think he's not very similar in the styles of play, but he's an absolutely a top level attacking midfielder that United can use. At the same time, he's been linked with Arsenal for almost every season for the last 3 4 years, and Arsenal, no matter what happens, death taxes and Arsenal buying an attacking midfielder. So you never know. Probably Madison goes there. Yeah, I think one of the top six for sure. And Tielemans probably will leave the league. I don't see him signing. Um, so I think there was an opportunity. Like a lot of people were looking for midfielders, and I think last season there was a lot of chat that Tielemans might be sold, but there was an opportunity and it wasn't picked up by any of the top five, top six teams. So probably he's going to leave England in that case.
And Harvey Barnes also might be a real candidate for one of the top six. He's been probably one of the few players who have had a standout season by their own standards. I'm not sure, but probably he's also had double-digit Premier League goals this season. So it would not be a big surprise for me to see Harvey Barnes join someone like a Spurs or a Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle could very well benefit from some getting some of these players.
Yeah, of course. Newcastle is a great shout. I keep forgetting them. Yeah, I think they could be in the reckoning for all three of these players, for all you know. But as RK was talking about it and said Harvey Barnes, and I was just thinking of one name. I think Harvey Barnes is a pakka perfect Spurs level signing. Like I feel like Spurs are going to sign Harvey Barnes, and don't get me wrong, I think Harvey Barnes is a He's a really nice player, and he's very talented, and he's exciting to watch. But he seems like the kind of guy that Spurs will buy, not know what to do with, and he'll just end up becoming one of the many people on the Spurs bench and off and on, and probably not being a successful move.
Uh, do we see any of these fullbacks slash wingbacks going to a top six team? There might be some spaces open, so the likes of Ricardo Pereira or Castagne, they might also be of interest to some teams.
I'm a huge fan of Ricardo. I absolutely love Ricardo, but I think he's not been. I don't think he's dependable. He's missed a lot of football over the last 2 years for some reason, injury or something or the other. Castagna as well has actually lost a lot of football as well. So I'm sure there are teams that can take them, but they've not really inspired a lot of confidence in terms of availability.
Yeah. I think with that listener, we have ensured that Leicester City will not only beat the odds, but they will also beat the drop. Now they will win both their games. All these guys will stay put and they'll be still at the King Power Stadium next season. But
Just for the sake of
Man,
spicing up the
we
top four battle, let's hope it happens.
man, we got suckered into this. We got properly suckered into this, and we ended up. What have we done? We made the Cardinals sin. We should have learnt by now. 36 games in, we should have learnt by now. My God.
anyway, we shall see, listener. We shall see. As shall you, I'm sure. And when we connect next time, I think there'll be slightly more clarity on what's happening. In the meantime, all we can do is wish you a good evening, afternoon, or morning whenever you're listening, and we'll see you next time. Have fun. Bye.